One of baseball's greatest legends has died. Hank Aaron was 86. His death was confirmed on the Atlanta Braves Twitter feed. Aaron is second on baseball's all-time home run list with 755. He broke Babe Ruth's record home runs in 1974, and he held that record for more than 30 years before it was broken by Barry Bonds in 2007. Aaron played 23 years in the major leagues, most of them for the Milwaukee Brewers and the Atlanta Braves. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1982. Former U.S. President Barack Obama has reacted to Aaron's death, saying that Hank Aaron was one of the best baseball players I've ever seen and one of the strongest people I've ever met. Whenever Michelle and I spent time with Hank and his wife, we were struck by their kindness, generosity, and grace, and were reminded that we stood on the shoulders of a previous generation of trailblazers. Well, for more on this, I want to bring in Meeker Guerrier. Now, he's a radio host at Rouge FM and sports commentator with RDS, and he joins us from Montreal. Thanks so much for joining us, sir. Let's talk about Hank Aaron and what made him such an incredible ball player.
Well, everybody will talk about the home run record of 755, and you talked, John, about the record being broken by Barry Bonds in 2007. And for a lot of people, that record of 755 home runs still holds because of all the controversy around Barry Bonds and all the performance-enhancing drugs that was taken during his time of play. So for a lot of people, Hank Aaron is still a legend for breaking that record, but also for enduring all that came with breaking Babe Ruth's record. The fact that a black man was celebrated, but also hated for breaking that record. Babe Ruth was basically America's child, as you could say, and Hank Aaron, coming from all that era of segregation, I would say that he's maybe the spiritual son of Jackie Robinson, because he followed Jackie Robinson. And I was reading a little bit about Hank Aaron today, and he said that Jackie Robinson had a lot to do with him being a major league star, because when he was growing up, there were no baseball players, no black baseball players, and Jackie Robinson was an inspiration to him. So when I think about Hank Aaron, this is what I think about. The first thing is what he had to endure to go through during his career, and all the trailblazing he's done for the black community in the United States, but also in the sports world in general.
That was something else that Barack Obama paid tribute to, saying he was an unassuming man but a towering example, and led through leadership even after baseball. As you mentioned, that Jackie Robinson connection, breaking the home run record in 1974, but Hank Aaron started playing professional baseball only 7 years after Jackie Robinson first broke the color barrier. So what would that have been like for him taking to the mound with the memory of Jackie Robinson's first integration into the league so recent?
Mm-hmm. Well, what Hank Aaron was saying is, if you just put yourself in his position, John, for a moment, no one before him, no black man before Jackie Robinson even dreamed of playing in a Major League Baseball. So even if it was only 7 years in that case was an eternity for people waiting to have access to the greatest baseball league, or I could say one of the two greatest baseball leagues at the time, because the Negro League was actually a pretty good league also. So the fact that Hank Aaron was inspired by Jackie Robinson, he made him believe that he could actually reach his goal. And Hank Aaron told in an interview that once he saw Jackie Robinson play in an exhibition game, his father stopped telling him that it was too big of a dream, and his father started supporting him towards that dream. So there is a big connection. And also another point is the fact that Hank Aaron broke the Babe Ruth record in Atlanta, in the Deep South, in Georgia. And if you fast forward to today, there's a long history. I don't want to make maybe bad connections, but if you look at what's happening in Georgia politically today and what Hank Aaron did about 50 years or 45 years ago, I would say there is a line, and there's a storyline there.
Speaking of that storyline, he really was that connection to that era, that living example of that. Do you think enough is known? I mean, they made a movie about Jackie Robinson's life, to be sure, but do you think enough is known that it really is such recent history, and that those fights, as we certainly see even today, continue?
Probably not. And I think it's maybe one of the reasons is that Hank Aaron was someone very humble. He was also known as to be a gentleman. And a lot of time historic figures have to wait, or we usually wait for historic figures to pass before we treat them properly and we raise them to the level they should be raised to. But in Hank Aaron's situation, he is celebrated, and he was celebrated during his time living. So I would say maybe we don't know enough about him, but there's plenty that we can find about him in history books, in baseball history as well. So I think that he will get his share in history as well. I'm not worried about that.
Barack Obama mentioned as well that Robinson received so many racist death threats that you said as he was chasing the Babe's record, and letters that he would reread decades later to remind himself, quote, not to be surprised or hurt. Pretty remarkable.
Well, yes, pretty remarkable. And he kept all those letters. And what is pretty remarkable also about that, it's that it didn't happen 100 or 200 years ago. It happened 50 years ago. And my parents are barely above that age. So you can see that there's only one generation between what Hank Aaron lived and had to go through while he was the greatest player of all time. You gave a little bit of his statistics earlier. And he is still the first RBI producer in run-based hit in all of baseball. He had 25 All-Star games. So he is one of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest. And he still had to go through a lot of racism. So it is pretty remarkable that he went through all that and he was able to be on top of the game.
Meeker, I want to thank you for your time and helping us understand the life and the legacy of the great Hank Aaron. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, John. Have a good day.
You too. Meeker Guerrier is a sports host with Rouge FM, and he joined us from Montreal.